Today, let's look at photos taken with this beast. Hello, it is I, Julian Kai. Welcome to my channel and thanks for watching. I just want to say before we start, thanks so much to all those who have watched the previous videos and taken the time to comment or like, and also those people who have subscribed. It's always encouraging when people interact with your videos when you're starting out here on YouTube, and it does make me feel like it's worthwhile making more videos. So thanks so much for doing that and subscribing. It's much appreciated. So yes, today we are going to look at photographs I have taken over the years on this beast of a camera, this beautiful beast of a camera, the Polaroid 600SE with the Polaroid pack film instant back. So you put your pack film in there, you take your photo, you pull it out, you let it develop, and then you peel it apart, and it takes the most beautiful photographs. I love this. I love the results you get out of this. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get the film for this camera now. Polaroid obviously don't make it anymore. Fuji film made it for a long time. They made a beautiful color film and a lovely black and white. And so back in the day when I could get that quite easily, I shot loads of photographs with this. And now, unfortunately, you can only try and find it secondhand, and it's very, very expensive. A lot of money for a pack of 10 shots. But let's delve back into the past and look at some of the lovely photos I've taken with this big bad boy. So I've been trying to think why I love this camera so much, having used it over the years. And actually it's not just the camera, it's the film that I think I find just so lovely. And I've used this film before I even got the Goose, the 600SE, because I've had cameras like the Polaroid 340, which I'll do a video about another time, which shoots the same film, and in fact in some ways is even better because it has a much closer focus, and so you can really fill the frame, especially for portrait photography. That is a lovely thing. But I think, if I haven't used it for such a long time because the film's no longer available, and my preference was to always go for the 600SE, was because the 600SE is full manual, and the other Polaroid cameras like the 340 were full automatic. So even though you got the closer focus, you had no control over aperture or shutter speed or exposure. Basically the camera did what it wanted to do, whereas the Goose, of course, is full manual. You take a light reading, you dial in the aperture and shutter speed you want. But the downside of it is that with the lens I happen to have on it, and I only have the one lens, you can't get that close. You can get a head and shoulders shot, but you can't really fill the frame with a headshot. And I think that was a little frustrating at times. But having said that, still a lovely camera because it's manual. And also the fact that this film is so lovely because it's instant, but it's also a good size. And you know, for those of you who don't know, it's pack film, so you shoot the shot, you pull the film out of the back of the camera, and then you wait for the exposure time, and then you unpeel it, and you have this beautiful sharp photograph that has wonderful colors if you're shooting color, wonderful black and white if you're shooting black and white. It's not hit and miss like the modern or the Impossible Project Polaroid film that I've spoken about in previous videos. And it just has just a lovely, wonderful sort of quality to it. So that's, I think, why I was really drawn to it. And I got into these cameras and this film when you could buy packs of these films quite easily for maybe, you know, £10 a pack for 10 shots. And of course nowadays, if you're lucky enough to find someone selling secondhand, I think it seems to be going for about £80 to £100 a pack of 10 photos. So beyond most people's budgets. I'm lucky enough to still have a handful of packs of the black and white film in my fridge, and I shot some just the other day for the first time in many years, and it's of course very out of date now, and was a bit disappointed with the way it came out. It seems to have lost its contrast, and the blacks are just a bit washed out. I need to try another pack. Maybe that was a one-off pack, but it is, I can't remember. It's here, I have the pack here. Let me have a look. Used before 2014, so over 10 years old. But I've got a few packs of this in the fridge still, and I've been putting off using it because I know you can't get it anymore, and I want to use it on really special projects or photograph the right, you know, models, subjects. But that means I've just kept putting off using it. But I did crack some open the other day, as I said, and was a little disappointed by the results, because here's an example. If we just look at this first photograph, let's get stuck in with looking at these photographs. And I started with this example just so you could see how wonderfully sharp it was and how black the blacks were, and it just looks lovely. I love the way this photo came out. Lovely silhouettes of the trees, and just enough detail, and the light just catches the subject on the bicycle, so she's not completely in silhouette. You can just see the detail. It's probably not that clear in this overhead shot, whether you can get in close enough, but you could just make out the cyclist there and the landscape. So really love the way that came out. But let's move straight on to some more. So here's a color shot, and of course this is a non-glossy. If I'm looking at this, this is a sort of matte. You used to be able to get silk and glossy, so I presume this is silk, so it's got a slightly matte finish to it, and it's just lovely and sharp. And I mean, I love this location, and I love the way this came out, and the light was just right. The subject looks gorgeous, the way the light's catching the dress and the model, and then the just general grunginess of the whole place. This was a location we sort of found nearby, from the same shoot. Not quite as effective, this photo, but it's a great derelict building, and if you can find a derelict building, I love a derelict. I love a cemetery and a derelict building to take photographs on. A bit stereotypical, especially for sort of fashion stuff, but you know, really adds texture to the photographs. So there we go. So here's some more. This feels like it's another silk shot, slightly harder crop. I think this is probably about as far close as you can get with the 600SE as far as focusing. If I'm being picky, I think I've cropped her head too much, not doing my beautiful model enough justice there, and cropping the top of her head off too much. Should have moved up a little, because there's less interest in this detail, and they would have been more interested in her hair. So here's another one from that set, and again, I love the way this came out. A little too much shadow. Probably should have got her to slightly face towards the camera a little more and get the sun catching her there. And then a black and white one here. Touch overexposed, but I think it works really well. I think the makeup and the eyebrows and the dark areas come out nicely, but I probably should have adjusted the exposure slightly to be slightly less exposed than that. I'm cracking through these because I've got quite a pile of these photographs here to go through, and I want to get through this without this video turning out to be 20 minutes long. So moving on, love the way the colors of this came out, all the sort of browns and the textures of this photograph. Really like the way that came out. Here's a black and white version. Again, I seem to slightly have overexposed with the black and white, so I think perhaps black and white is a little trickier to nail than the color on this camera. I mean, it's manual, but it's still pretty basic stuff, and you've only got I think that only goes up to 1/500th of a second shutter speed, so it's a sunny day and you still want some shallow depth of field. You're a little bit scuppered, because you've only got up to 500th of a second, and then you have to start, you know, cranking down the aperture and then losing that depth of field. So here's another one, silk. I obviously was a big fan of the silk, which is good because it's not as reflective. Love this photograph. Lovely looking model. and the textures. Again, we found this amazing location, which was some sort of derelict building, and with all sorts of weird stuff, including this weird sort of weird petrol, what do you call that? Some kind of petrol dispenser machine. A petrol dispenser machine, that's what it was. And we found this old fire bucket, and of course if you find an old fire bucket, you've got to just make your model pose with it. It's just, that's the rule. But it's probably worth getting a shot with your model not holding the fire bucket, just in case that looks ridiculous. But so this great place there, full of real interest. And here we go, moving on again, more silk FP100c, I think this film was, Fuji film, pack film. Lovely rich textures in these photographs. I mean, I so miss this film. The fact that this is instant and not just a shot that you've had, you know, negative that you've then developed and printed onto film. These come out straight away, and you just, I think the color requires a few minutes development time before you peel it apart. The black and white is like 15 seconds, and then you peel it apart and there it is. So loving the instant results of these photographs, and the fact you've got that tangible, real film photograph right there instantly. You know, wonderful stuff. Okay, so here we're going into some color, and this film, this is when the color is out of date, when you've left it too long before you've used it. Sometimes it still works, sometimes you get some really happy accidents, and I love the way this stuff has come out. So this has got a really strong sort of greeny tint to it because the film was out of date. But you know what, it just, I think, ended up working really well for this set of photographs. Especially, look at this, they're still really sharp, the way the light's hitting the subject, just the sharpness, but the colors have shifted, and actually in a really beautiful artistic way. So really like that. Love this next one here, even though it seems to have been a bit too dark. I mean, I think you probably can't see that on this camera, but actually looking at the photo, there's still enough detail to see the subject sort of sitting there like a little fairy on that tree, and I just really love the way that came out. And I thought we'd end with you know, it's always good to do a Diane Arbus or Vivian Mayer type selfie shot, and so this is a black and white I took in the mirror. I love the way this photo came out. That's me taking the photo, obviously, and with this beast of a camera. And yeah, it's a massively hefty, unwieldy camera to lunk about. It's not ideal at all. And when you pull the film out and peel it apart, you've got these two parts. You've got this sort of negative part with the black and white. You've got the print, and the print is still wet for a while. So this is probably a situation where you probably want to just give it a little shake like a Polaroid picture, which of course we don't do on the other types of Polaroid. But this is wet, and this does need to sort of dry out for a bit. So if you're out and about on location filming this, it's a bit problematic, because then you've got to put this photograph somewhere and put it somewhere careful where you're not going to scratch or touch the surface till it dries. That's fine in a studio, you lay them out somewhere safe. But if you're out and about, you've got to put these somewhere. You can't really just put it in your bag. I tend to just gently put them back in the box and put them in there and hope they don't scratch each other if they're in on top of each other. But it's a problematic camera. It's not ideal at all. It's always you really have to sort of do some planning before you go out shooting with that camera. But the results are worth it. They're just gorgeous. So I hope you've enjoyed this rather speedy whiz through some photographs I've taken over the years on the Polaroid 600SE. I will perhaps do a video looking at some photographs I've taken using the Polaroid 340, which uses the same film but as a bellows style camera. I've got some lovely photos that I've got on that, and so it'd be perhaps nice to have a look back through some of those photos. If you've enjoyed this Polaroid show and tell, then let me know in the comments. It's good to hear from you. It's encouraging, makes me feel like it's worth putting that time and effort into making these videos. So I don't want to bang on about subscribing. If you like the content, then you'll subscribe. If you don't, then move along. But thanks for watching. It is much appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.